Joining us now is Patrick Vernon, who is a social commentator, campaigner and cultural historian. Welcome to you. Great to have you with us. Now, you brought some individual Windrush cases together back in 2018. What's been your experiences since then in trying to get compensation?
So this is the 5th anniversary of the Windrush scandal, when Theresa May apologised in terms of one of the biggest human rights violations against British citizens, and there were British citizens that were treated. Since then, the government made lots of promises and platitudes. They've used the expression righting the wrongs in terms of sorting out a compensation scheme, doing an independent review of lessons that could be learned for the future. But you know, with all due respect, 5 years on, nothing much has changed. And Glenda, who I know personally, we've worked together campaigning along with other Windrush victims and lawyers and activists. This report that's come out this week is the third report in 3 years highlighting the failure of the Home Office to effectively support Windrush victims in sorting out compensation. And actually they've been re-traumatised, ironically, as a result of the Home Office bad administration. And that's why we're all saying that the scheme should be removed from the Home Office and managed by an independent agency, because all the experience we've heard is the compensation schemes being offered by the Home Office is low. They lose the paperwork. Some people are still waiting for a caseworker 3 years on. You get a better service from Poundland or Ryanair than the Home Office.
Would there be an issue, though, for some cases, people having to start again if there was a new scheme that had to start from scratch?
Well, you know what? We've been campaigning to improve the compensation scheme for the last 3-4 years. And each time when the Home Office is exposed, either the Public Accounts Committee, the Home Affairs Select Committee, this report, other reports, the Home Office makes changes, and I'm sure they'll be making changes again. So it's very, very piecemeal. You have to bear in mind that when the compensation scheme was launched in 2019, the government spent a whole year consulting like the Glenda organisations and lawyers for the best scheme, but they didn't take on board people's views and concerns. And that's why it's just dragging away since time. That's why it needs to be moved on out of the Home Office to an agency that can build trust and confidence in the Windrush generation.
OK, Tulip, you've had experience of constituents who were fighting for compensation.
That's right. I feel this whole process is a source of national shame for us. I mean, it's very difficult to read the stories and also speak to people who haven't received the compensation they rightfully are owed. 23 people have died waiting for this compensation, and 2 of the families did contact my office to say they just have no fight left in them anymore. They feel like they can't do this anymore. They had their passports taken away at the start. They didn't get the social security that they deserved, and now we're mistreating them again and, frankly speaking, disrespecting them by not giving them the compensation they deserve.
Is this a failure, catastrophic failure by the Home Office? Does this need to be removed from them and given to an organisation that can deal with it?
Well, I'm a firm believer in those who did the crime should serve the time, and I believe it should still be under the Home Office, but the Home Office has got to understand why it made those failures and make absolutely massive changes in the Home Office to understand why it is that this group of people were so horrendously treated in such a dismissive way without any consideration of what it will affect, how it will affect human beings' lives.
But can they be trusted to mark their own homework? I mean, as Patrick said, they've been looking into this again and again and again.
Well, one of the things that, as I say, I'm persuaded that if we were to just hand it to another agency, I'm willing to be persuaded, Patrick. But I mean, if we were to hand it to another agency, that wouldn't change the Home Office. And we need the Home Office to change. And one of the things that I think is important that Human Rights Watch has pointed out is that 3 of the recommendations from the report weren't adopted, and they should be. And the key one to that, I believe, is the Commissioner for Migrants. Where there should be a position, a very highly considered position, who would have direct access to the Home Secretary to talk about the interests of migrants in this country. I regret that the government have stepped back on those 3 issues, to be honest, because they should have adopted all the recommendations.
Now, Patrick, what would you say to anybody watching who's been impacted on this and doesn't kind of know where to go now? They just feel stuck.
I mean, basically what's happened in the absence of leadership from this government, a number of funders and philanthropists have come together. They are funding a range of Windrush groups and active organisations in London, which I've been involved working with them for the last few years. So if anyone who's watching this programme needs support and assistance, I'm working with an organisation called ARE. If you go onto their website, you'll access a whole range of organisations. But going back to Andrew's point, yes, the Home Office did a crime, but they're not the fit. There's no empathy at all.
I'm
That's
so
what needs to be
sorry.
removed.
We must leave it there. Thank you so much. That is all we've got time for. My thanks to Patrick and, of course, to the Tulip and to Andrew. My thanks to you for watching. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.